think a good point here is that I know all three of us are doing because that's what we're talking. We're all nodding about it, but you start to see in the industry which people are okay with doing that and which people aren't within your own team, right? And so for me, from what I've learned, Mike, is that whenever I'm willing to go, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Can you guys help me here? Like I need your help. Man, the level of just like worry or I don't even it's not anxiety, but just like everybody just goes, all right. So now we're at a base point, right? But before they would be worried that they got to know everything because usually, some people are trying to hammer on making sure they know, and you got to figure this out by yourself. Like, I'm not going to tell you, right? But if you're willing to go, guys, I don't know what this is. I need your help. Tell me what you can do here. Man, you just opened Pandora's box for creativity and just really, in my opinion, like the project team is really starting to develop trust there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You humanize yourself just like that. And you humanize everybody else in the room because it takes one person to say, I don't really know. And you imagine you'll be surprised how many other people are like, no, I don't really know either.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Be surprised.
It's crazy, right? Because it goes back to being in class, right? For those who are in high school or college, and one of the teachers like, just ask me a question because I guarantee you someone else is thinking the same thing. But then you're sitting there like, oh, I don't want to ask this question. I'm going to look like an idiot. And then you ask it, and everyone's like, yeah, that was a good question. I was wondering the same thing, right? And it's the same thing that goes with construction is everyone else might be thinking it, but everyone's really good at following the crowd. And if someone's like, yeah, okay, let's do it, right? Everyone's going to say, yeah, let's do it. And they're just going to go and do it without knowing the why. And that's, absolutely. I think that is a huge part of what separates people who are really, really, really good at what they do versus people who are very average. And it's not that the people who are very average can't be really, really, really good, but they're asking the wrong questions, right? The moment you start going there and you start asking people, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, is there like, how'd you learn to do that? Is there a different way to do it? Right. I want to know the reason, right? As long as you know the why behind something, you're going to set yourself apart immediately because you're going to understand the reason this foreman is scheduling work this way, or why are we digging this foundation and not digging that foundation, right? And it might look very random, but at the end of the day, there is a reason for it. And maybe, sometimes every now and then there might not be. They just want to do it that way, right? Yeah. But usually there is a reason as to why, and that goes with every single trade. It goes with every single type of construction. It goes with every single, whether you're a superintendent or a project manager or estimator or quality control, safety guy, you name it, you need to know the why behind it. In order to know the why, you got to ask the question. In order to ask the question, you need to get to know the people that you're talking to.
Dude, you nailed it. I mean, for those of you who are not in the industry or trying to get into the industry, and especially for the younger people listening, why is probably the most powerful question you can ask. Not, I mean, because it goes in so many different directions. Mm-hmm. I feel like especially now that like what I'm seeing in the construction industry is that technology is starting to play a much, 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 much more major role in what we do on a daily basis. There are some crazy, crazy machines out there and instruments that we use. I'm not going to say we use on a daily because some of this stuff is expensive and like we can't afford it. Like there are some crazy machines and instruments and softwares that are out there that we use, and it's all based on an old way of doing something that somebody tried to streamline. And the only way they were able to get to that point where they developed this mechanism is by asking why. That is the only way to develop something from old to new, or from good to better, or from bad to good. You know what I mean? Like that's the only way to do that. That's the only way to improve the system is to ask why. If you don't understand the system that you're trying to improve, you can't improve it because you can't understand what's wrong with it.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
Really good.
I mean, like you have to be able to, and I'm gonna keep like knocking on this same thing, dude. Humility, bro. Be humble. Who's that? What was that? Kendrick Lamar? That's Kendrick Lamar. Be humble. Like Like
Right.
you gotta be humble, man. That if there's any takeaway that anyone like gets from this, it's like construction is not a humble industry because we get paid to be right.
Yep.
Because if we're wrong,
Good
people
point.
die.
Yeah.
I mean, if an engineer is wrong in his design and something collapses, people get hurt. People die. People go to jail. There's a lot of liability attached to this. And so there's a lot of ego attached to this naturally when you're dealing with people who've been doing this for 30 years and in their head, they've been doing it right for 30 years. That's what we get paid to do, though. We get paid to do things right. And the more iterations of being right you have, you get a little bit more swagger about yourself and you kind of tend to stop asking questions. It's like, I've done this before. I know I'm right.
Right. Right.
Like you kind of let that part go. But I think staying grounded and staying in the moment of whatever it is that you're working on, whatever the project is, whatever the task is that you're working on, like staying grounded and present in that and seeking to continuously improve, I think that will by default cause you to continue to ask why.
Really good.
That's good.
I mean,
Let's take it a step further. So give us an example or show us what are some of the ways you can be humble. Because one of the things, Mike, whenever we went up to Western Carolina, the students were just, I don't want to say blown away, but just taken back by the how we talked about relationships, right? And they've all had internships, right? And they've been on job sites, and so they've seen how the majority of the construction industry was. And so they would continue to ask us, like, how do we stand that line of being humble, but also standing your ground, right? Because I don't know. I just picture the first 3 years, right? You're really trying to figure out yourself and how you interact with people. At least that's what I was doing. Like, I'm still trying to learn technical stuff, right? I'm trying to get better at my craft, at learning how the building process works. That's a given. But the other part is if I can motivate Mike, if I can figure Mike out, if I can figure out what his strengths, his weaknesses are, what he's good at with other people, like that's how I'm going to win, right? But
right.
we lose ourselves in the fact that sometimes you can be too over the top or you can be too humble. So how do you find that line of standing your ground but also being humble?
I think you have to figure out what your focus is. So let me say, first and foremost, you're not going to get all of this at the same time. Like you're just not. You're not going to be able to tackle all of these concepts at the same time in the same year on the same job. Like, bro, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, it's a step-by-step kind of thing.
Learning
There's a lot of
process.
overlap, I would say. There's definitely a lot of overlap. Construction is an industry where you grow up fast, like fast. So I think, again, for the young people watching, you hear, guys like us talking, like we only been in this industry for a couple of years. I've only been doing this, I've been doing this for less than a decade. So like, what I'm saying? Like that, you hear guys like me talking like this, it's not because I've been doing this for 40 years. It's just when you start getting the reps, like it starts to grow you up. So Davis, to answer your question, I think it's about choosing what you want to focus on in that particular moment. When I was my first project back in Atlanta, we were doing a school, and I was actually having a really tough time with my project manager because that particular project manager, I don't know, just kind of had a way about her, and so we didn't really butt heads. I wasn't really getting trained or taught, or I mean, I wasn't really getting a whole lot of support. So, but I still had to perform. I still had to do my job, which at that time I was out of school, so I was a project engineer. So a lot of my job was writing R5s and going through submittals, reviewing shop drawings, etc. Touching a lot of things I've never touched before. Looking at a lot of building materials I've never seen, shop drawings I've never seen. I'm learning things that I have no basis of knowing any of this stuff, right? So I have to lean on the traits to teach me because the person who was supposed to teach me, I wasn't getting that out of them. So like, yes, there's a line where I'm like, bro, Dave, whatever the person's name is, like, help me, like, teach me what this is because I really don't know. Actually, perfect example from that exact job, doors. I'll never forget this because it was such an episode. doors and doors and frames. I had the door contractor pretty much school me on left hand door, right hand reverse, left hand reverse, in swing, out swing. Like, what's a lock set? What's a mortise? What's a thumb turn? What's a passage set? Like, I had him school me on all of that because I just didn't have any basis of knowing. And you know how project teams get, everybody's so busy that, you know, sometimes you don't really have a person who can just sit down and just teach you this stuff. So with him, it was like he was an older guy, and I guess he had time. He just kind of schooled me. And every time we went through a submittal, he would teach me, like, this is what you do. And you put your hand on the door, and whichever way your thumb points, that's the operational side of the door. Or you put your spine to the frame. This is a real old school ways of teaching the things, but like, he taught me. He taught me all of that. But like, this is the same guy who, like, first door delivery comes in and we got 3 frames that are out of square. Hey, what's going on? We got these frames that are out of square. We need to get them fixed. We need to get them swapped out. Like, I still have to do my job because I still work for the general contractor. I still got to get the materials here, and I still need them to be right. Right. So I still have to hold this guy to his contract and hold him to the schedule. But at the same time, I understand that we now have a working relationship where I'm not just gonna, you know, shove his face into the mud for absolutely everything. No, that's the guy who, like, schooled me on this same material. Right. So I think being focused in one moment on, hey, what is this? And then in the next moment, it's all right, I know what it is, and now it's here. Now I need it to be right. So it's a matter of just kind of adjusting your focus and just thinking about what exactly you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I like that. And Walker, if I could speak on this, like,
Go for it.
so for the first few years for me, Mike, I got ran over all day, every day, right? Like, I just did. Like, I'm a nice guy. Like, I would just let whatever anybody said, just, all right, cool, yeah, that works. Or whenever anybody didn't want to do something, I was just like, all right, cool, that works. Like, I just wouldn't negotiate. Just like, I don't know why. So for the life of me, I had to learn, and really with my superintendent, he's on the other side. He's going to run over somebody, right? Like, he's going to show you, like, and so I was like, all right, don't want to exactly do that, but I need to learn a little bit about how to be stern and fair, right? And so, like you talked about, I think that was a great example because for some people, I guess the majority of young people coming out of the industry, you don't know what you can say, right? Because you don't know the knowledge that other people have.
Absolutely.
But whenever you get to that point where you feel like you do have the knowledge, you can stand firm. But I would challenge our generation, don't be ugly about it, right? Like Mike said, there's a way. You're not cussing them out, you're not shooting them out, you're not calling them names. Like, none of that needs to be said. What you need to be doing is making sure that, hey man, you got 3 door frames out of square. Could you get these shipped and just turn around real quick for me? I need them out here on the job site. Like, that's fair, right?
That's it. That's
And
it.
that door manufacturer, guess what? Oh man, sure, I'll get right away on that, right? Like, he's gonna like it because you actually treat him with some respect, right? Some customer service part of you. So it's just, I don't know. You think about that. Don't be afraid. For the younger people, don't be afraid to kind of hold the line, but just don't go over the line, if that makes sense.
Right. And I mean, it always goes back to asking questions. Like, okay, he says, all right, I can't get those frames here in time. You don't know if that's good or bad, right? Because you're new at this, and you don't know. You don't know what that affects. You don't know what kind of domino effect that has. Okay, so your next step should not just be, okay, just get them when you can. Like, normally, as a young person, and I'm not saying I didn't do this, but I was in your shoes too, and I definitely had those moments where I'm like, I don't know enough to argue with this, so I guess it's fine. But like, that's it's normally a matter of, all right, let me circle up with my team and get back with you. That's going to be your catchphrase in your first couple of years. Let me circle up with my team and get back with you. Let me follow up on that. It's a way to say I don't know without saying I don't know. Right.
I like it.
So circle up with your team, but then, like, actually go circle up with your team.
Right.
Because the next question you ask is, how does this affect us? What are the effects of this? What can we do? Because now we're getting into what Davis was just talking about. Now we're getting into the negotiation. Now we're getting into, okay, my next call back to the door guy is, hey man, these frames don't get in. Like, it's gonna hold me up on my painting. What can we do to get you guys moving on these? Is there another similar frame somewhere else
Yeah.
that we can swap into place with these? Is it like what can we do? How can we move this around? What are my options? What are our
Right.
options? Can we pay you
Right.
to expedite something? Like, can we? What are our options here?
Can we take
Like,
3 from a different floor and just
Yeah.
remember,
just move
right,
from here. Yeah,
right.
it's asking questions, dude. It always comes
That's
back
right.
to asking questions. You
Be
don't have
curious.
to be ugly about it. You really don't. You really
No.
don't. Like, these are still people. They're still human
Right.
beings, just like you.
Right.
If somebody was to get ugly with you about that, like, why don't you know this? You're a general
Right.
contractor. Why don't you know about doors? You're running the whole job. How don't you know about doors? Like, if somebody was gonna get ugly with you about that, like, think about how many problems that would actually solve for you. Probably
Right.
not many.
And
So
not to mention the other side of that is whenever you mess up, they're gonna want to work with you now, right? Because it's like you could have. I don't know if I want to mention our poor APM. Anyway, I will. He ordered an amount of frames that just the wall thickness wasn't right both ways. Some of them were too. The wall was too big. The frame was too small. Some of them the wall's too small. The frame's too big. And so he's having
oh
been
wow.
working with our door manufacturer to get them back. Our door supplier to get them back out here. And he was like, I don't know. I never took this stuff off. How was I supposed to know, right? Like it's just he had to learn by trial, and so he's learned a lot. But I just remember him talking to me about it was like, just make sure when you take it off, like make sure you're going through it with your door supplier before you confirm it, because believe it or not, he actually went through it too and has to take off and measures
Mhm.
wall thickness and knows the different. Like he can, like you said, Mike, if you're willing, he can school you up on it and help you. You just have to be humble when willing to tell him, hey man, I need help.
Yeah.
That's it.
The cool thing about being new is you get the new guy benefit, right? For your first 5 years, you can literally ask any question you want and you're not going to sound dumb because
Yeah,
you're new and you can just ask stupid questions and you can ask them again. But by the time you get
absolutely.
to like PM level, senior PM, right? Those same questions, you can still ask them, but people are going to look at you like,
Huh.
shouldn't
A
you
little
know
different.
this answer? You know, but when you're new, you can ask whatever you want. That's the great part about it. And people don't take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if you're doing this, by the time you get to a lead, like a project lead level or PM or super or whatever, like, you'll have a lot of that information stored. And the questions you ask, like, you're still going to be asking questions. I'm asking questions every day.
Yep.
But the questions you ask are going to be A, more informed, B, they're more going to be like how to the
Right.
questions. It's, how do we consider, considering we have this equipment and this material, how do we do that? Or we
Yeah.
don't have an opening on that floor. How do we get material up there? What equipment are we gonna? It's more how to. How are we gonna do this? You
That's
know?
fair. Mike, as we wind down, we always ask these 2 questions. My question to you is if you were going to encourage someone else to come into the industry, particularly a young professional, what are some qualities you think they should have?
Ooh, qualities. All right. So first and foremost, you have to be willing to learn.
Mm,
Willing to learn and willing to change a
That's
lot.
a good one. That's a good one.
that's a really good one.
It's gonna happen a lot. There's a lot of you see it all the time. Like, there's this, I mean, company to company, dude. Like, the way that people do things, it's different. And if you want to grow, you're gonna have to be somewhere for a significant amount of time, right? Or be it, working for somebody or with somebody, working in some capacity for a significant amount of time, which means you have to be able to be malleable to fit into a system. And if you're not,
Mm,
you're probably gonna end up finding another job somewhere, or at least looking for one.
The opportunity to find another job, right?
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I think that for sure. Definitely you would want to be willing to learn, be willing to change, and I would say lastly, be willing to fail. Because that is
Good.
also gonna happen a lot.
That's good.
that
Learn, change, well.
all that was awesome, especially be willing to change. And I think a lot of people are not, right? Because they're set in their ways. And I've been one of those guys of like, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna do it the way I want to, right? Which
Yeah.
is not the right approach in any aspect of your life. But over time, right? It's okay. Oh, you challenged my thinking on that. I don't know why I disagree with it or don't like it. Let me think about like as to what's inside of me that's disagreeing with what you just said, right? And as you start thinking about that, the ability to be willing to change your direction or the way you think is going to be huge, especially in construction, because you don't know what you don't know. And what you think you know, you actually don't know, right? Especially if you come from college and you think you know a lot and then you actually don't know a lot,
Yep.
and it's going to be that way throughout your entire career. But Mike, going into that of what we wish we knew, if you could go back in time with everything that you know now, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
What would I tell my 20-year-old self? Go outside. Like,
Never got
actually go
I
see
like
the
it.
job being built. Because, like, let me actually back that up. So I guess not so much just go outside. I would say pace yourself. Pace yourself.
Mm,
Because I think for me, when I first started, I got buried in the paperwork because of my position, because I was a project engineer. It's
yeah.
so very easy to get buried in the paperwork, and like you have these hard deadlines and everybody's breathing down your
Yep.
neck because you're the low guy on the totem pole. So you get stuck just trying to crank paperwork out, But like it was very easy to lose sight of the fact that you are actually building a building.
Yeah. It's true.
That's what this is. That's what all this paperwork is for. Is for actual physical structure that you're building, not on your computer, in real space, outside somewhere. Like, go see it, because everything that you do on this computer makes a whole lot more sense when that stuff outside becomes real to you.
Yeah.
When you can see it and touch it, you can see what a survey looks like in real space, not just on paper. You can see what digging foundations looks like, because that literally powers every single other thing that you do in
Mm,
the industry. It teaches you how to build a schedule, because it teaches you what a 1 day activity looks like and what a 5 day activity looks like, because you've seen it now.
Right.
You've seen
That's
the
right.
cool.
steps that it takes to do that. It teaches you how to make a site logistics plan. It teaches you how to sequence work, because you start to see what parameters you can. For me, I'm a person. I'm not very good with distances. I know I said before the call I'm good with like maps and stuff like that. But if you tell me something's a mile away, I'm like, that could be 8 hours for me. I have no idea. I have no idea. It could be right next to me. It could be it could be in Alabama. I don't know. I don't know what 1 mile is. Like, I don't know what 20 feet looks like. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are things that I like. Being on a construction site, it's like after you be around it a little bit, you can kind of eyeball, like, all
Hmm.
right, that trench is about 10 feet deep. I probably need some type of shoring or a bench back or something.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
dude, it literally, like, just go outside. Just go out, just take some
That's
time,
good.
just go outside.
Good
It's
advice.
fine, because you're still at work. Like, it's okay. It's okay to just walk around the job site. It's fine. You're still at work. Like, it's okay if you get yelled at. It's fine. You're still at work. It's all right. You lose your job, you get another one. It's okay. You're like, it's fine. It's
That's
And one
okay.
of
good.
the
Yeah.
one of the biggest things for me, Mike, man, that you mentioned it was, I've gotten big responsibility on this job site, really just sequencing work, but understanding the what correlates, you're right, of going out there and seeing the work done and being able to project in the future as far as how long it takes was, man, I was tracking the ceiling grid and hard lid framing in two different crews, but same company, right? And so I would go back in the office at the end of the day and be like, did they get that done on the second floor? Oh, wait, did they get down the third floor? Instead of going, All right, let's just go walk it, man. Let's go walk it right now. Okay, you walk it. Oh man, they got all this done except they left something out for the mechanical right here. Okay, I know they almost got this whole building done. So the next morning when we're in the foreman's meeting, I'm able to tell my superintendent, and he thinks, "Wow, well, this guy actually knows something, right?" And so
Yeah.
it's something as simple as that, but all it takes is a little bit of drive and you to go, okay, I need to get out, you need to go walk the job, whatever your trade or if you're field or office or whatnot. It's just
Mhm.
so easy to manage by coming back in the office and typing emails or tracking this and that. But I mean, manage by walking around and understanding what's going on with the job daily. I love that.
Man, you would be surprised when you start walking around like what you're talking about, Davis. Dude, your brain is a powerful tool. You'd be surprised how much information it stores without you really working that hard to store it.
Right.
You get out there the way that you're talking about doing it. Like, man, you seem like a superhero because you just know
Right.
all of this stuff. Like, you really didn't do anything. You just walked.
You pick
take
up
a single
patterns
note.
too, right? You see
Right.
what, like, if you walked yesterday, you know what was done yesterday, and then you walk again today, you see the differences, right? I know today they put up more shoring, they put the rebar in for the foundation for the columns, and they started doing some of the embeds for for one of the shear walls. Like that wasn't there yesterday, but it was there today, and there's the difference.
Right. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
But Mike, man, we appreciate you jumping on. This was awesome. Really cool conversation. I mean, I learned a lot, and you hounded it in everyone's brains, and we try to do it every show. Ask questions. It's the secret to construction. It is a superpower if you can harness it. But man, we truly appreciate you jumping on. Thanks for your time and learned a ton, dude.
And we'll see
Dude,
you
I
tomorrow.
appreciate it, man. Learning from you guys every time we talk. I appreciate it.